Alright, everyone, welcome back to the reaction of Unsolicited Fatties Talk Back, Episode 1, Meet the Fatties. Now, it's been a week since I last recorded because I was so irritated I need a break. And somehow it has become wiped a bit from my mind exactly where we left off, so we're just going to listen and we're going to go for it. And thankfully, kind of, it saved my place on my account. I hate this. I hate that this is being associated with my Spotify account. I hate this.
Or to be coerced into trying to lose weight. Or you can't, like, in any context, like, it's ridiculous to me that people act like they live in a vacuum where it's like, oh, well, I have autonomy. I can do what I want with my body. Like, sure, but you can't act like that was not something that was forced upon you by doctors, by your friends, by your family, by strangers, by people on the internet, like by the media, like all of these things. And then to take part in that and to claim it as autonomous is an act of violence because
Oh my god, what the fuck? We're like a minute in. Oh fuck. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That's an act of violence, and I love that you are trying to essentially gaslight people and say that it's not their actual autonomous choice because they heard it from doctors or their family or whatever. So that you can't possibly simply agree with it and take that autonomous choice. But even if by some chance you do, it's an act of violence. Are you fucking kidding me? Have we forgot? I swear to God, we've forgotten about the definition of violence. What I do with my body is not an act of violence against you at fucking all. I'm allowed to do what I want with my body without you saying that I'm hurting you in some way. For fuck's sake. Like, the people that do what they want with their own bodies and stand the most risk of hurting others would either be sex workers that regularly don't use any sort of protection and have an advanced level of exposure to like STIs and that sort of thing that can be passed on to their other partners. To a certain extent, though, I think that that is a risk you sometimes take when you're engaging with that sort of thing. And there's plenty of, at least with sex work, there's plenty of education around sex work becoming more available that the risk of STIs is lowered, especially with those that require condoms and that sort of thing. And a lot of them will like regularly get tested. So the risk there is lower. And as long as like it's upfront, I am a sex worker, I have had multiple partners, then people can make their own decisions about whether they want to have engage in a sexual activity with that person, with that sex worker. Then the information is known. The other potential one would be drug addicts. And the reason why I say drug addicts is because I've seen a lot of drug addicts leave needles exposed in bathrooms where children regularly go. Like, that would be a risk of, yes, you're doing it for yourself, but the product of you making your own decisions, it does put others at risk. And not only that, but like some erratic behavior that can happen with drug use is also a risk there. But me working out, me posting before and after pictures about my progress is in no way violence against you. Does not affect, there are no products of that stand as substantial physical risk to you.
by saying, oh no, it's my choice, that makes fatness our choice. And that makes our existence an inherent like rebellion, which I mean it is in the society.
Okay, but it is your choice. Yes, this is my choice. I don't understand the point here. So you're saying I should not have the choice to make healthier decisions for myself. I should not have the choice to work towards weight loss. Fuck you. Fuck you. Because then that makes you feel like your fatness is a choice. Newsflash, the choices that you make can lead to your fatness. Alright? No one's saying that you actively chose to be fat. Like, that was your decision. I want to be fat, and therefore I am fat. That's not what anyone's saying. But the choices that you make to not get regular exercise, to eat excessive amounts of food, to eat highly processed food, those are all snowballing decisions that lead to your weight.
That we live in, but not by choice.
I actually think that like Yes. So I love like this piece around autonomy, because I think that there's a deeper conversation there about who does and does not have autonomy. And in particular, I'm thinking about Black fat folks who are stripped of autonomy in a world that forever others us in our bodies. And so, conversations around autonomy and autonomous decisions and having a choice, is something that I think is outright impossible for Black folks. And to that, I also want to say that outside of like this theoretical like situationing or positioning of choice, I think that some of us do choose fatness, right? Like some of us absolutely make the conscious decision to be fat. And
100%. 100. Yeah.
yeah, and I know that you weren't arguing otherwise, but I'm
So I don't understand why you can make the decision to be fat. Like, you guys agree that some fat people make the decision to be fat, but I am not allowed to make the decision to be small. I am not allowed to make the decision to be thin or fit or whatever the fuck you have issues with, because that's somehow violence. Like, talk about just such a narrow fucking worldview and such a self-absorbed worldview. I mean, fucking really. Also, the bit about fat Black folks not having any autonomy. I wish he would expand on that and give me some examples, because I'm not understanding the point that he's making there. Like, how? How are they completely stripped of autonomy? I don't have much to say against that, because I don't even fully understand what he's saying here. I wish he would give some examples.
that like for listeners, because I think that so often people really will a lot of people's, especially, oh my god, I know this is not the conversation for today, but especially leftists or people with a more quote unquote progressive politic, the only way they can justify or conceptualize fatness as an identity is if they say that it's not a choice that we make, right? We don't choose to be fat. We're fat because of capitalism. We're fat because of food deserts. We're fat because we're poor, right? And it's like, babes, people have been fat before capitalism. They were fat before feudalism, and they'll be fat after capitalism, right? Like that, and that's okay, right? And we can.
So then, are you acknowledging that it's a choice then? But you had issues when people said that it was a choice. I swear to God, they cannot get on the same field, like the same decision. Like, it's they're talking out of every which way. I I have no words.
To make those decisions and be able to perhaps experience in a reality where we get to make a choice, right, an active choice to be able to decide on what our bodies look like without being coerced into something or something else.
Then why can't I do that with my exercise? I don't fucking understand how you, like, they've made it blatantly clear that they want to do whatever the fuck they want to do, but God forbid you do what you want to do if it makes them feel bad. It is the most self-absorbed talking, like, discussion I have ever heard.
And I think that's the general analysis that oftentimes is missing. But I'm naming that to say that, like, this person, I also want to name, like, for Fraud Fitness, that part of me is holding like a piece of sympathy for them, right? Like I am also cognizant of the fact that, or at least the way that the letter is written, I don't know if it's stated explicitly or not, I don't have it right in front of me, but I know what it means to all of us know what it means to be in an anti-fat world that does, like you said, Jordan, coerce you into weight loss, right? You want to, you everything about you, as sociologists would call it, social institutions, family, religion, media, schools, etc., all teach you like that your body is sinful, it's degenerate, it's harmful, it's ugly, it's disgusting, it's all these, like, really negative descriptors and adjectives that make you want to lose weight, that make you feel like the only way to live is to lose weight. Heard you, felt you, got you, sis, right? Like I understand that. And I think that I would have more room and more desire to be sympathetic towards that if I felt like the way that they were engaging their fat friends was them choosing to be sympathetic towards their friends. And it doesn't read that way. It doesn't read like they actually give a damn at all about what their friends feel or are experiencing, but instead are only concerned with their feelings and are not, thinking through the general impact of anti-fatness altogether. Go ahead, Mikey.
No, see, I love that, because literally you guys are all pulling things out of my brain. The conversation about choices and autonomy and like this neoliberal, like my body, my choice feminism type thing sort of colliding with the inherent and distinct lack of care in this relationship. Because, oh God, like if you go back to what they wrote in, there's the part where we talked about where it was like, they're very into body positivity, health at every size. This is great. I think everyone should feel comfortable in their bodies. Sort of calling back to this idea that, like, oh, they should have the freedom to decide how to look at their disgusting body. That's totally fine. Like, the good for them.
They can't fucking win. I swear to God, this was about, I'm remembering the write-in now, where it's like, they were simply trying to keep up with the friends in their new area, and their fatter friends in the former place had an issue with it. They are not saying that, like, but he's all for body positivity, feel good in your body, all that. But then they're like, see, this happens so much in the fat acceptance, where they create insinuations, they create thought crimes, they create everything that is not explicitly listed there as a way to victimize themselves and justify not only their stance but their lifestyle. And it's not like everything has to create a villain for them. It can't just be a difference of preference. They have to be the victims in every fucking situation. This is emblematic of that entire thing, and I can't believe we have 27 fucking minutes left of this. But holy fuck.
So there's already this like inherent discussion about the freedom to hold different viewpoints about size that's like going on underneath the surface here. But I realized that it was also sort of a point of contention in how people were also receiving what they wrote in, because in response to my comments, which basically boiled down to like, we do not owe the spectacle of like weight loss attention. Like we don't owe it, inherently. And that's what it is. Like the pursuit of weight loss, the pursuit of this, vaguely defined idea of fitness, it's spectacle. It's a performance that requires a response, that requires attention, that requires that we invest our time and energy into it, right? And, fraught fitness is essentially getting upset at the fact that her friends, however they're going about it, aren't willing to give into that spectacle. They're not willing to give in to sort of provide the returns on their performance. And so there's this like concept of friendship as participating in this performance, right? Regardless of what the person wants to do.
No, what they wanted was they're trying to do something that's hard for them, and they wanted the support of their friends. They wanted the support because right now they're in this limbo space where they don't fully fit in with their former friends, and they don't fully fit in with their new, more active friends. And they're still a little bit more aligned with their old, better body positivity friends. And they want some support for making lifestyle changes. And they're not getting that. It's not a matter of performance, and they want them to engage in the performance as though this is all just a big ego stroke. My understanding was that they wanted reassurance that they will gain strength, that they will, the thing is that with these types of circles, anything that is made in an effort to better oneself physically is seen as a direct threat to the overall ideology. Oh my God.
And then there's the other sort of perspective on friendship, which is like, this is built on care and mutual care and mutual respect and boundaries and respecting boundaries. And so when I wrote that, like, basically, like, if you know that your friends don't want to hear about something or are hurt by hearing about something, then you have to look deeper into the thing that drives you to continue to bring it up. And I think that it's partly because, when a fat person gives into that good fatty archetype, when they give into that spectacle, there is an expectation that there is a return on that investment, that there is a reward for, good for you, you're finally doing the right thing. And so somebody responded to my comments about this, and they were like, friends should be allowed to talk about their lives, and that's not the point we're debating here. But to address that, friendship isn't built on people being allowed to do things. It's built on care. And so if you don't have care, but you have this abundance of like energy to struggle about who gets to do what, then it really does signal like that you're not participating in this relationship in good faith. And that's like an inherent issue here that I think is amplified by what people already think we owe other people who are pursuing weight loss or pursuing, the performance of fitness.
I think this is so like, just to chat a little bit about my personal life, I don't really have friends. It's just, I'm not generally a very social person. I very much like my projects, and I can be perfectly cordial, and I have some work friends, not like friends, but work friends. But I don't actively seek connection with others. I just don't. It's just not how I'm wired. And this is part of the reason why friendships in general don't work out, is because people, like, for me, because there's this idea, you say no one owes anyone anything, but then you get mad when someone in a friendship is not adhering to these apparently particular rules, even though that person doesn't owe them anything. But it only seems to matter to you when someone doesn't owe someone something if it supports your narrative. Like, it doesn't seem to go both ways. And you say that friendship is built on care. Well, these friends aren't showing much care to Fraught Fitness, because Fraught Fitness is trying to make a lifestyle choice, and their so-called friends are shitting on them for it. Let's take the fitness aspect out. If they were trying to take up a new craft, if they were trying to learn to sew, if they were going back to school, and their friends that had an ideological bent against any of these things, say they were, They felt that higher education was classist in some fucking form, or that they felt that getting into a new craft and buying all the craft supplies was a support of capitalism or something, or some other like really out there take on someone trying to simply do something to enrich their lives. I don't understand how that is caring in any form or fashion. Like, the caring, even in the way that they're describing this, would be a one-way street.
And yeah, just like I just don't understand why be in a friendship if there's no care there.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna like shut my big mouth in a second, but what you just like, I really, really, really appreciate what you just named, because so many like people understand boundaries until it comes to caring about fat people's feelings, right? Like we all have friendships where there are just certain things we just don't talk about with those friends, right? Like there are some of my friends who are like either asexual or who are like just disinterested in like sex in general. I don't have conversations about sex with them, you know, and I also know that so many people do not give a fuck about asexual people's feelings and will talk about sex regardless. But like as an individual, that's something that I don't do because I am mindful of their feelings. There are some people who like I will not engage like topics around Christianity or things like that with them because of their own triggers or traumas, irrespective of whether I'm critiquing the institution or not, right? Like we all have friendships where we know that boundaries are set and we respect those boundaries. But when it comes to fat people, it's always.
So I'm actually, since he brought up asexuals, one, for the record, I am not sex repulsed. I probably have nothing to add to the conversation when you're talking about sex, but I don't mind you talking about sex. And if for whatever reason I do get uncomfortable, I will say to your face, if you are my friend, I no longer want to continue this conversation if we are having it one-on-one. If it is a group conversation happening, I will simply separate myself and remove myself from the situation, take a break, go get something to drink, maybe go for a small walk or something, and let others continue their discussion because that's the topic of focus right now. Like, I don't want people to have to walk on eggshells around me, you know, because I don't like a certain topic of conversation. The only thing I will, like, beg people to do is not talk about bodily functions while I'm eating. And that's pretty much any variety of bodily functions, but I have a relative that, I swear to God, whenever I'm eating and they're in the room, they feel the need to talk about their cat's bowel movements, and I fucking hate it. It's gross. I can't handle that while I'm eating. But that's different than, like, just having a general conversation with someone. And, like, if they're having a conversation about something that is too much for me. For me, the big thing that I can't really talk about is animal abuse. I can't handle animal abuse. And so if they are talking about a news story, something about abused animals, I'll be like, please give me a second. I don't want to participate in this conversation. Y'all have a conversation, but I'm going to separate myself. If they're talking directly to me about it, I will just cut them off and say, nope, I can't do this. Most of the time people will say no, but then they're like, no, but, and then they'll continue saying, and it bothers me, it can upset me, but it's not something that's necessarily going to ruin my day. It really bugs me in the moment, and in my, like, more extreme ones, I will, like, shout at them or literally cover my ears and go, la la la, depending on how emotionally vulnerable I am at the time. But, like, that's all decisions that I can make. You can, part of boundaries is having something that you do when someone is not respecting those boundaries. If you have a boundary about not talking about weight loss, let's say, the way to enforce that boundary is not to try to control other people. It is to remove yourself from the situation, saying, I've told you that this discussion makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to have this conversation, so I am walking away. Another way to say that this is not for me and that person is not respecting the boundary is to walk away and not talk to them for a few days and be like, what you did really upset me. It's about what your behavior is into the boundary being violated, not about how you try to enforce your boundaries onto others.
We're asking too much for people to not talk about their relationship to the gym, right? Like, my partner goes to the gym, but my partner also knows I am not interested in you having a full 1-2 hour conversation with me about your gym workout. I do not care. And they aren't going to the gym because they're like, oh, you know, I have to be thin. Like, they are also disabled and want to move and you know, all the things like that. And I hold that with so much care because they have the right to do that. And also, I have a right to not want to hear about your full workout plan, right? Like,
okay, no. So we're going into a different territory now because this is just a matter of not caring. I have family members that, like, my mom's getting really into Catholicism. Full honesty, I don't really care about Catholicism that much, but it means a lot to her. So, sometimes she wants to talk about it. So, we talk about it. It kind of depends on, like, how... It depends on what she's telling me, but for the most part, I listen for at least a little while. I may not particularly care, but I listen because she wants to talk about it. That's part of a loving relationship, is sometimes listening to things you don't want to hear about. If it's something innocuous that isn't, like, harming you or, like, really making you emotionally uncomfortable, if it's just something, a matter of you not caring, sometimes it doesn't hurt to listen. My mom listens to me talk about my Autonomy games. Sometimes I know she doesn't give a fuck. But she listens to me because she knows that it's important to me. Just as I listen to her talk about Catholicism because Catholicism is important to her. Doesn't, like, it's not necessarily nefarious, and I think that saying that someone can't talk about something with you simply because you don't care about it is not very caring to the person that you have the relationship with. Like, it's one thing if it really upsets you, kind of like, for me, again, stories of animal abuse, any graphic explanation of animal abuse, I can't like, it's emotionally, I can't handle it. Same with, like, brutality against children. But, and it's kind of been what, like, I've had family members talk about Hamas in, like, graphic detail of what's been done to children, and I'm like, I can't, I cut them off when they try to talk to me about it. It's actually started an argument called, but I don't want to hear graphic explanations of brutality done against children or animals. I just can't handle it. But for things like Catholicism that interests my mother, my sister really likes her beauty routines, getting her nail done, going to the spa, I don't give a fuck about those things, but I listen to them because it's important to them. And it doesn't harm me. I may not care about it, but it doesn't harm me to listen to them. That's part of caring. Like, that's part of showing that you care about someone, is sometimes listening to things that you don't particularly care about because you know that they love it.
And we should be able to create those type of, like, relationship and boundaries where we know that neither person is moving with a lack of care or is moving with the intent to hurt you. And in fact, because of that, we're moving with boundaries in place to make sure that we don't do things to unintentionally or intentionally harm you. And I think that people not recognizing that, for me, is one of the most frustrating parts about relationships in general, irrespective of what dynamic it is. But also, I think that Fraud Fitness tells us the type of frame or mind frame they're in this letter. They tell us, that they're having body image issues. And to me, whenever I read that, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what this is, right? Like, I know who's writing this. I know, like, what's like leading you to want to write this letter and what's leading you to having these feelings. And I think it was Caleb who brought up earlier, like, they also named, or maybe it was Brian, I don't remember, I'm sorry, y'all, but that they brought up that they couldn't keep up with their fitter friends, right? Like, so not only are you having concerns with keeping up with your quote unquote fit friends, which, by the way, fit does not equal thin. So I'm a little confused about what's going on there. But even though I guess colloquially it does mean thin, which is why they use it that way. But you can't keep up with your fitter friends, but also,
Like, no one said, he never said that fit equaled thin. He never said that his new friends were thin, just that they were fit. You can be thin and not be fit. There's no colloquialism used here. It was that the Fraud Fitness could not keep up with their fit friends. And the body positivity crowd clearly had an issue with them being more active, which would suggest that they aren't very fit. I don't understand this. Again, they're wrapping something around in this conversation to more legitimize their point that's not even fucking there.
You have body image issues. And to me, it feels like the egg comes before the hen, right? Like, I feel like you having those body image issues is what's leading you to thinking about, being cognizant of not being able to keep up with your quote unquote fitter friends. And that's what's making you criticize your fat friends for not wanting to hear you talk about the gym all day, right? Like, I also, for me, part of what I'm considering in this is that, I don't know if y'all have had these experiences, but people who are new to something can never shut up about it, right? Like, people who are newly Christian, people who are, like, newly queer or whatever, like, that becomes their entire identity and they can never be quiet about it. Like, they walk in a room and they let you know, I am a Christian, I have my Bible right here, like, that type of thing. So I imagine that this person who's, they just moved, they're getting to the gym, they're like learning their, like, new, like, regimen and whatnot, all they're talking about is the gym. And I'm sorry, even if I was.
Yes, and part of being a friend is, if it's not hurting you to hear about this shit, you can listen to it even if you don't care about it. And the thing is that it's like, if it really makes you feel bad about yourself and you're not in a place where you are ready to get fit or whatever, then you can kindly say to them, I'm happy for you, but I'm really not in a place where I can listen to this. I think that weight loss is pretty innocuous, but we're going to take the fat acceptance failings into account here and say that if you don't want to hear about it, that's fine. You can communicate that plainly without being cruel and without being mean, and say, let's talk about other things. Let's find other common grounds. If all the commonality that you had was that you guys were both fat, then no wonder your friendship is falling apart, because that's a weak-ass basis for friendship, in my opinion. You guys have been friends. You don't have anything else in common that you'd be like, I'm happy for you, but can we stick to subjects like Star Wars or whatever the commonality that you have between you is? Like, it doesn't mean that the friend that's trying to get fitter is somehow against you in some way or anything like that.
Then I don't care. Like, I would not want to hear that all day long either. I'm not your like fitness trainer. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not your.
No, but you're a friend. You're a friend. Friends listen to other friends about their hobbies and what they're excited about. And since your big complaint is simply that you don't care, then you are a shitty friend for not listening. I mean, I understand when someone talks about it ad nauseum and you get a little tired of hearing it, and that's when you put your hand on theirs and say, I love you, I'm glad you're excited about this, but I cannot hear, can we have a break from it for today? Like, there's ways to lovingly say, not right now, without being an asshole about it and without completely removing the topic from the table.
Doctor, I do not care. Can we talk about something that has to do with our friendship and not your individual like commitment to weight loss? So all those things to me is what I'm considering reading this.
So what I'm hearing is that people can't be individuals in a friendship with you. It has to be all based on what connects you guys, and you guys can't be your own person in a friendship. My God, what is your romantic relationship like?
And I just know like that like compounded experience of them being new to this, and also them having the body image issues and therefore being hyper aware of how differently they are moving from their thin friends, just makes it so clear that like your intentions here are not pure, and it's not to hold your friends with care, because like you just mentioned, Mikey, like if that was the case, these boundaries would be heard and understood immediately. Like it wouldn't even be a conversation.
Yeah, also because I mean I'm glad you pulled out that body image issues line, Deshaun, because I noticed it too. And like it's so telling because A, that's like very ambiguous, and B, there are multiple approaches to addressing body image issues, whatever that is, right? And like the gym is only one approach, and choosing that approach also makes it very clear like what your investments are, what you think the solution is, right? Like the solution is not to like which I think a lot of fat liberation sort of politic would encourage us to kind of go inward and question like what are these body image issues, where are they stemming from, and how can I sort of address those without compulsorily, whatever that word is, changing my body, right? Because we are so indoctrinated into it at every step. And you know, just like you were saying about, you know, your partner and their relationship with the gym, Deshaun, like I think that's also very telling. Like lots of people go to the gym for lots of different reasons, and they don't like, and that reason is also going to determine like how you talk about it and why. And if you're going because you think you are opting into this privilege, really, and like I think Mikey's analysis of that was so on point. Of like, yes, that sort of time spent in cultivating a particular kind of body is an investment, and I think people who have those bodies are well aware of that and very much do expect that return, right? And I think that that's so clear that this Fraught Fitness thinks that like this is a neutral approach to her problems, without even considering that like maybe if she talked to her friends about her body image issues, they might have really good insights about how to address those without developing that rift. And other.
But I don't understand why addressing it in this way is such a bad thing. Like, you're like, body image issues, you should unpack that. You can unpack it until the cows come home. You can say that I have this. Let's just take their rhetoric just for a moment. Just work with me for a moment. And say that I have body image issues because I live in a world that celebrates thin bodies, and I am not a thin body. And that makes me feel insecure. And so while I do need to love myself, I also want to feel proud of my body. And one way that I would feel proud of my body is by making my body stronger and more fit. I hate this idea that it's all just society telling you because if you want to get fit. Like, there are so many. I have been working out for a while now, since I think March, And I have got, like, we had to lift a couple of, like, recliner chairs to put it out in the garbage this week, and I had to lift it with my mother. So much easier. There was a bookcase that I put together, and it was heavy, but 2 years ago I had to lift that same bookcase because we bought the same bookcase from Target 2 separate times. And when I carried it with my mother the first time into the house, because it is like a team lift sort of thing, it's just long and awkward and you need 2 people to lift it, we had to take breaks just from the car to the front door. This past time, especially with me, she's been working out too, and we were able to lift it. I did not feel fatigue in my arms at all, and we were able to get it all the way inside the house exactly where we want it on the first try without taking breaks. Do you have any idea how powerful a feeling that is? To be able to lift heavy objects and carry them without any serious feeling of fatigue. That is a powerful feeling. I have not had a whole lot of men in my life, and while there are very kind male neighbors that we have that are willing to help us out, I don't want to have to rely on the men around me to be able to function in my home. Part of the reason why I work out is to be able to function on my own, that I don't have to ask a bunch of people for help. Like I said, I'm a big fucking loner. I don't like asking people for help, and I have a level of social anxiety. The working out and building muscle has made me feel more powerful, confident, and like I have more ownership of my own life. That's not a bad thing.
Other things I wanted to say. I think so. Yeah, there was that. And I wanted to go back to Jordan's point about like the sort of the autonomy of this, right? And that's something that I've been really coming up against lately. Like I'm teaching this, and thank you also, Mikey, for bringing in performance, because I've been teaching this Intro to Performance Studies course at UC Berkeley, and it's been such an interesting experience because my students, it's become so clear through learning about what performance is. My students like really want to be autonomous and really want to be outside of being impacted in any way by any cultural or societal value, right? And there's also like a really clear connection to that, to white supremacy and capitalism, right? The individualism of not being connected to others, of not having to be accountable to others, right? And not thinking about the ways that our actions inevitably impact everyone around us. You know, like there was this like moment where they were like, what about brushing your teeth? Is brushing your teeth a performance? And I was like, yeah, like whether you're performing it for your own like self-care or just because it's like a cultural value or whatever, like even if you're only doing it because like you really like the way it feels and you like the way that you are like, which I think is the most pure like approach to doing anything, right? Is to like get in touch with your own values and align with that. But you know, if you brush your teeth twice a day, every day, because even if it's just because like because you want that and it makes you feel good and you feel best in your body, that's still going to change how you show up at the dentist and how the dentist impacts you, right? And like all these things all these like,
oh my god, I can't believe they're couching this as a performance rather than a choice. This is to me, this is a very dark way of looking at humanity. Everything is a performance done for something else. That is such an empty sense of, like, if that's how you view your life, this is not to be condescending, but I genuinely feel sorry for you. Because if you view everything as a performance, and how that performance will then affect you rather than a choice that you're making, because these words have power, and to say something is a performance means that you are doing it for other people, where a choice means you are doing it for yourself. And if you view everything as a performance, then that means you live purely for the external world and not for yourself at all. That's kind of sad and dark.
Minor choices that we think that we make that we think don't impact one another. We're so culturally and socially enmeshed in this way that is necessary and beautiful, but under capitalist, colonial, white supremacist systems, we are so conditioned to want to separate ourselves as individuals unaccountable to one another. And I think there's definitely that going on in this as well, where I'm just like, you know, we don't have any descriptors about this person, but we know who this person is, right? Like we know that this is a white cis woman. I'm just gonna say it, like, you know, we know who this person is, and so
very clear.
that's functioning in this as well.
I also think, like, as someone who, I don't know if any of you know this about me, but I'm kind of like a lifelong athlete of sorts. I like grew up doing like all of the sports. I've always been fat, but I've also always been very like into like athleticism. Like if you name a sport, I've probably done it. And like
Same.
yeah, I mean like it's just like so it's interesting to me, like save, since June when I uh slipped the disc in my back. Like I was most recently like on a professional plus size dance crew. I, went to school for musical theater. So I was dancing like 5 days a week minimum. At a certain point when I was in high school, I was a snowboarder. When I was in middle school, I got my black belt in Taekwondo. Like I've done like really like sports and different.
I'm sorry. In middle school, you got a black belt in Taekwondo. If anyone does any level of martial arts, please tell me what you think of that. I'm not in martial arts, but from what I understand, to achieve a black belt in just about any form, in any, like, martial arts form, you have to spend a minimum of 10 years working on it. Like, that's my understanding. If I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me, because I'm not in any sort of martial arts studio. I have not done martial arts. But a black belt in middle school seems highly sus to me. That's like, talk about it, that really seems like an exaggeration. I need to hear anyone who does martial arts, please tell me your perspective on this fucking line. I need to hear it.
Types of athleticism at a pretty high level, and I think that like as a fat person in those spaces, like it becomes very clear what the undercurrent is of the conversations. And there are people who can talk about fitness and athleticism and sports and all these things without going to a fat phobic place. And there are people who can't, or do not know how to, or do not have the capacity to have those conversations in a way that is not violent and harmful. But yeah, I think that like what really frustrates me as someone who is like a fat athlete is that there is this implication that if you're fat, you can't want to talk about fitness or athleticism, or alternatively, there isn't a way to participate in fitness or athleticism in a way that isn't fat phobic. And that's not to say that the fitness industry is not inherently violent. It's not inherently white supremacist and fat phobic and all of these things. And like there is the other side to it, where there is a way to participate in fitness, maybe not like fitness, like the fitness industrial complex, but like, to participate in fitness itself without going to that fat phobic place in your discussions of it.
One of the things that I think I would probably clarify a bit there, which is the difference between I'll say this: there is nothing inherent about fitness that makes it fat phobic. There is the industry has been structured in such a way to replicate those systems of oppression upon us. I mean, even
oh my fucking god, are you kidding me? I swear to God, this whole part, they've been talking out of both sides of their mouth. Fraught fitness is wrong because they're trying to get fit, which is apparently a metaphor for trying to get thin. But there is nothing inherently fat phobic about fitness. But how dare they, like, the amount of mental like, it's impossible to even follow their line of thought at this point because it seems like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. Because they don't have a clear point to make, and because it actually feels like they don't even have a clear set of what they view, like a clear outline of their own viewpoints, and so they're doing this weird tango that's all over the fucking map, and I just, oh my god.
We didn't even get into this. Deshaun noted this a little bit, and we will probably have a whole conversation about a whole episode about words and how, like, specifically the buzzwords that are used, fitness being one of them, and how that has come to mean something that was not what it meant when they started using it.
Great. It's just like, you can tell, it's like the language that is used, and it's also the intention behind the language. And like, part of me, like, the part of me that's like in therapy and like also like has a personality disorder and is like tries really hard to not like use judgment language and to not assume what people are saying. There's like the other side of it where it's like, you can just tell the difference. Like, you can tell what is under people's words, and like, yeah, we will have an episode on words.
And they need to wrestle with that, right? Like, that's the thing. They need to wrestle and be honest with the fact of what is underneath their words. And we've all played this game sometimes.
But sometimes nothing's under the words. As someone who sometimes phrases things in a very blunt way, I have learned how to soften my words some, but it's still not a natural thing for me. So sometimes excessively blunt words come across like there's more to it than it actually is. Someone is like, oh yeah, I did this and this and this today. It's like, oh, you've had a lot of time on your hands today. I don't mean anything about the rest of their life in return in form of that. I'm not saying they're not doing that much. I'm not saying they don't work hard. I'm saying today, from the sounds of it, they had a lot of extra time available to them. That's all. Or, I mean, feel free to correct me. You might just be very good at organizing your time, and that's fine too. But like, as someone who the thought of implication of the words sometimes comes as an afterthought. Sometimes there's nothing under the words. There isn't. And I understand how certain phrases in our world can carry connotations, but that doesn't mean that everyone who says those words has those connotations to those words. Sometimes we're just a little bit oblivious to what we're saying. Sometimes we don't realize how something comes out. And sometimes the other person just is hell-bent on reading entirely too much into what we're saying. There are some very sensitive people out there, I know a few, that if anything isn't phrased 100% positively, and sometimes even when it is phrased 100% positively, they will still find some sort of underlying connotation or insinuation to it that isn't there.
Right? Somebody calls us on the tone of the content that we have given, and it might be a partner or something. It's a place where we are a little bit ashamed about the way we said our message, and they caught it, and they pinpointed it, and then they call us out, and we're like, it's just text. You're reading into it. And like, no, it's not just text. There is always subtext underneath the text.
But even on
these people are fucking exhausting. This is why I look at these people and I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have friends, because if this is what I have to deal with, I don't have the time for this shit. I don't have the time or energy for this shit.
top of like subtext, like fat people, if you were the kind of person who grew up marginalized in some way that was like visible and you know, it was just there and it's unavoidable, you are very well versed in picking out the ways that people like refer to their hate for you and through euphemisms. Like this idea that like, you know, like the whole like choices thing. And I mean, like I do it all the time in public health. Like I see shit like health promoting behavior and I'm like, that's dieting. I know that means dieting. I know that means dieting. I know that means restriction. We all.
No, I'm sorry. Like, granted, I'm not in healthcare, but every health promoting like activity that I've seen talked about is typically, yes, eating healthy, not eating too much cake or cookies or excess sugar. Like that is part of it, but then also taking regular walks, going outside, getting some sunlight, getting 8 hours of sleep every night, drinking enough water, all the like general health things that sometimes people who are depressed or have excessive anxiety aren't always capable of taking care of. And so those reminders of health promoting behaviors of, yes, brush your teeth, yes, drink some water, yes, take your medication, like they're just meant as gentle reminders, you know?
Pick up on the phrases that are used to imply the inferiority, the mediocrity of our bodies, because we get exposed to it all the fucking time. Whereas people who like lob those words at us, they just employ them when they're like trying to refer to how they hate our bodies. Like they don't say it as much as we hear it. And so I definitely think that we probably need to do like a whole episode on just like euphemisms for anti-fatness, because there are just some words that are inseparable from the context of promoting fat phobia. And there's just like no way around that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I've had this conversation extensively with other like fat folks who are into, you know, fitness, because, you know, the argument is, well, there's nothing wrong with moving your body. And I agree with that. But I do think that the origin of gyms, of fitness as a culture, right, is designed around creating warriors, creating people who are, you know, physically fit enough to fight, whether in war or, you know, like each other, right? Like that's the sort of like beginnings of fitness as a culture and gyms as a culture. And so I do think that there's something inherently anti-fat about the term and like and the way that like it has been created culturally, and how it has been adapted in our like modern society. But yeah, I agree that there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to move your body and feeling joy in moving your body. So I hope that, you know, fraught fitness.
But do you see how moving your body with the specific goal of getting stronger, of like, even if it is weight loss related, that's their fucking business. But let's even take the weight loss thing out of the equation. If they're just doing it to get stronger or more flexible, or to be, let's say they take up running because they want to increase their endurance. If you do fitness with a goal, not simply for the joy of moving your body, there's validity in that. Just because you don't want to do it doesn't mean that it's violence against you. Just because you don't want to do it doesn't mean that it's not a valid reason to take up that activity. I don't understand how these people think they have the right to police others' reasoning for why they want to do something with their own body. I will never understand it.
For whatever reason, the word freight train just came to my mind. I hope that Fraught Fitness, like really is able to find a sense of peace within themselves, and also a sense of peace with their friends, and that that their friends are hopefully cared for with one another or by one another in better ways than what was exhibited here. But I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation. I think it was really productive, and I am also going to be leaving this conversation with a lot to think about. So this is a beautiful episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and before we get to the very end, I thought maybe we could, as we talk about caring for one another and caring for each other, what is something that you're looking forward to doing this week to take care of yourself?
I have a date tomorrow night.
Yes.
So,
okay.
Yes.
Well,
that's
okay,
right.
A date. I have a hookup.
That's right.
That might be better.
And it is. I love that.
I'm just gonna get some tender love and care tomorrow night.
Yes.
I love that for you. Love that for
Truly.
you.
This is a great question that is going to stump me because I don't even know. This is not to care for myself, but it's something that I'm very excited about this week. I know in the beginning of this I said Happy Halloween, but really we're recording it the week before Halloween. So
Look behind the curtain.
yes, I'm really excited about getting all dolled up in this Maleficent costume. I think that in some ways, it is a bit of self-care because I'm reckoning with the childhood me who always wanted to dress up and never got a chance to, and being able to go all out because now I'm happily and openly trans and queer. So I'm yes, do my makeup, yes, wear a dress, yes, wear heels, all the things that just make me happy. And so I'm really, really, really excited about that. And I guess after saying that out loud, it does feel like a sense of self-care and something that I'm doing to care for myself. So
It's so
that's my answer.
healing.
Yes, we love that.
Yeah.
I was literally going to say, and I realized this is probably not self-care. I was going to say I don't have more than one evening meeting each night this week, which I'm not sure that. Yeah,
Baby, that is self-care.
Get it how you can.
It's
really,
self-preservation.
Yeah, I have been trying to balance just a lot of stuff, a lot of things that have happened over the pandemic. We're oh, we have all this more time, and now things are, the world is opening up. And to be clear, I am not going out anywhere, but the experience of that happening means that time begins to feel more precious. And so I'm just really trying to take the time to enjoy things with and for myself and not be reliant on being engaged with another person the whole time. I also think my boyfriend will appreciate it because, he's always why are you always just waiting outside of my door to do something? He's a loner. So, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to just having some downtime. Again, nothing this weekend. I'm so thrilled about it.
Well, my sister's coming tonight, so I'm excited about seeing her again. And I'm going to let her cook for me.
Yes.
And that's going to be the thing that I do. I'm also going to go to therapy this week, every week. And yeah, sometimes just those food and therapy is enough.
Yes, and food as therapy.
Yes.
Oh, I hate that. Food as therapy. I don't see how they can do that and say that a mild calorie deficit is what's really an ED hiding. Food as therapy is such a disordered eating thought to me.
Always.
Food as therapy and food ass therapy.
Yes.
Food ass therapy. Yes.
God. What about you, Caleb?
Oh yeah. I also have therapy this week. I also have a haircut appointment, and I haven't fully decided how I'm gonna cut my hair, but I'm excited for the change. So
It's going to be super cute, as always.
Yes.
yes, cool.
Wow, we did it. We recorded a podcast. Okay, first episode. Well, this was such a lovely conversation, everyone. I guess all that's left to say is until next time, watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth.
Watch your motherfucking mouth.
All right, I'm leaving it there. This is going to be a new series starting next month because this is just too fucking batshit bonkers to not be. I need time to process the absolute fuckery that I just listened to. I don't have words. There was so much wrong here. I don't have words. And I had a week break in between the last video that I recorded. And I still don't have fucking words. I need some mind soap. I need to, like, I think my heart rate has been elevated a couple of times in this. I need a break. I'm leaving it here. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.